Am I live? I think I'm live. Yeah, I believe I'm live. I should be live. Yeah, it looks like I'm live. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? How's it going? Your boy NeoStarling up in the cut. As you know, most of you on Facebook know me by my actual identity. NeoStarling tends to be my internet persona. It's my internet personality, and this is my podcast, Neo's Corner. Neo's Corner podcast, which is essentially a podcast where we can speak about whatever the hell you want. I typically tend to live stream the podcast because I feel that I like getting interaction from people. And typically I do a two-person system where I'll speak with another person. But in this case, it's just me today. So feel free to jump on board if you want to participate during the course of this podcast. I want this to be as inclusive as possible. So I want to be sure that people get a say if they want. I'll read off any questions and answer them as long as they're pertaining to the topic. Or you just want to come by and say hi, and that's what's up, then I'm completely okay with that as well. So essentially, this is a mini series that I'm doing within the podcast that I do in between when I don't have a partner to speak with, an additional person sitting down next to me, where we do the whole back and forth switching. So this is me dolo. And because it's me dolo, I'm doing this right now. So the mini series is Neo's Corners podcast. How did video games impact your life? And video games played a pivotal role in my life. They were very unique to me, and I believe that video games have a very strong impact on people. Typically, they can tend to get a bad rep based off of what's happening in the media at the time or whatever the case may be, but I go more for the positive aspects of what's going on in the industry as far as the impact that they had on me, at the very least. And previously, I'll give you a slight recap. I spoke upon Illusion of Gaia, which was the first episode of this miniseries that I did. And that miniseries, that game had a really big impact on me. It had an extreme impact on me because it actually taught me how to read. All right. And I kind of went into detail about how it taught me to read and the importance of out of like sheer will and determination to want to finish a video game, something that I had a difficult time doing a lot as a child, sort of kind of just came to me. And, you know, video games, as we know, were different back in the day. It wasn't the deal where you would essentially just play it, and then, you know, people have voice actors now and they have like full motion capture, and, you know, it's almost like you're watching a movie and playing a game at the same time. So, you know, you can get through a whole story now and never have to read a word of dialogue, which, hey, it's cool because, you know, we're in the future at the end of the day and you're sort of allowed to do whatever the hell you want. So that's the day and age that we live in now. But back in my day, yeah, that doesn't make me sound old, right? Back in my day, it was a tad different because we had to read. We had to read a lot. So yeah, the first episode was about that, how that video game impacted me in that sense that it taught me how to read. So today I want to talk about a different game. I want to talk about the Final Fantasy series. I'm more specifically talking about part 6, which is actually part 3 in America, but it was actually the 6th game that was released in the series by Squaresoft at the time. They're no longer Squaresoft, they're actually Square Enix, which is kind of funny because Enix merged with Squaresoft and they became Square Enix. And the first game that I spoke about in the first episode was actually Enix game. So you see how it all like comes together, right? It just comes together in this beautiful wrapped up little package. And we now talk about the next game in the series, which is Final Fantasy VI. Now, if you're wondering how this game specifically impacted me, by then I knew how to read. So reading wasn't really the issue for me. Now I had a different kind of problem, or if you could even call that a problem, and I don't really see it as a problem. But what it did for me personally was it gave me a grander scope of perspective in life, and I'm gonna unpackage that for you guys. So basically, you know, when you're a kid, you kind of live in a bubble, you know, especially during my time, we were in a bubble because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet, you know, the way it's in its prominence right now. We had basic bitch shit, you know, and because of that, we had to find ways of being creative. And, you know, quite frankly, I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. I would always pencil in like these, you know, cartoon characters or whatever. It started with like Darkwing Duck, then it started progressing more towards like anime-ish kind of drawings like Dragon Ball and whatnot. But this one was pretty interesting because as I was playing the game, I never played a game that had such a large scope and story, where like the stakes were very high. It was very grandiose. You know, you had your team, and they each had their own individual problems that were happening. Like they all had their own story. It wasn't just a group of people that got together, they fought some great evil, and boom, that's it. Like it was over. No, you had compelling characters that had these crazy backstories, and their backstories were great. You know, and I liked the fact that they actually took the time to expand on those backstories with these characters. And in doing so, it gave me a greater perspective and understanding as well, because at that point, what that kind of taught me was that everybody has a story. You know, everybody has a story, whether it's your story, whether it's my story. Clearly, I'm the main character of my own tale, right? As you are with yours. And we can kind of forget sometimes that people can get lost in the shuffle when you are primarily focused on self, you know, just self and not like anything else. So in that process, I learned a lot. I really did. I thought it was great. Some of the characters, they intertwined with their stories, like Sabin or Saban, however you want to call him, and Edgar. They were both the children of Figaro, and they were basically in a kingdom where their dad had died, and the kingdom was supposed to go to one of them because they were twin brothers. And now Sabin, I'm going to call him Sabin because that's how I always called him as a kid, so that's how I'm more familiar with him. He didn't want to be king. You know, he wanted to be able to travel the world and explore, and he wanted to, you know, basically do his own thing. Now his brother Edgar, on the other hand, he told him, all right, check it out, this is what we're going to do. All right, now we're going to flip a coin. I wish I had a coin to illustrate, but I don't need it. So he's like, we're going to flip a coin. Now, if I get heads, then I'll become the king, and you get to go wherever the hell you want. You could explore your life. You could live your life. You could be free. Right? That was the goal. He wanted to be free. So, what's up, bro? So, he wanted to be free, and they ended up flipping the coin. He was like, all right, cool. So, he flipped the coin, and it ends up being a trick coin. Right? It's a trick coin. It's a double-sided heads coin. So, that was crazy to me because he didn't want to leave it to chance. He wanted to make sure that his younger brother got his freedom. And by doing so, he took the burden of running a kingdom. Did he necessarily want to do that? I'm not sure if he did, but what that showed me was a lot of sacrifice on his part. You know. By the way, what's up, Jason? What's up, Xavier? Thanks for stopping by. You know, and yeah. So he wanted him to have his freedom. So he never told him, and then he ended up going to the mountains, training with some dude, and you know, he became like a crazy, like super powerful martial artist or whatever. And that was only what's crazy about that is that that's a part of their story, right? It's only a small part of their story. And the fact that the game, because at the time, video games weren't doing stuff like this. You know, again, everything was very cookie cutter. You had your protagonist, you had your antagonist. It was good versus evil. And it was very vanilla, you know? So when I had played this game, this was the first time I got a different scope on what happens to each character individually. You know, now I can go down and like break down all their stories individually, but I won't unless somebody wants me to. But it was cool to see that. Now, granted, Final Fantasy 2 had already, I mean, Final Fantasy 2 in America, but I mean, in America, but in Japan it was Final Fantasy 4. They did that as well. They had a pretty compelling story as well, but I don't feel like it was very character heavy as well, but not as much as part 6, if it makes any sense. And I didn't play it at the time. Part 6 was the first game in the series that I was exposed to, so that was the first time I got to experience something like that. And the fact that they made me care about these tiny little sprites. These dudes were like this big, right? And they only had a certain amount of animations for their face. You know, they couldn't do much. You know, they were only able to move a certain amount. So you had like a sad expression, which was basically them looking down. You had their default expression, which was just like looking straight. their thinking one where they kind of will put their little like tiny like no fingered hand on there. What's up, babe? Thanks for joining. You know, they only did that, so they had a couple of expressions on, and those pixelated little expressions did so much, accompanied with a great soundtrack. Now I don't off the top of my head have the name of the creator that did the soundtrack. I probably should have gotten that, but this is pretty impromptu, so I wasn't expecting to do this right now, but I'm doing it anyway. Oh damn it, I forgot to hit the record button. I always do that. Oh well, whatever. I can always what's up? I can always pull the footage later, so it's fine. I can pull it from like Facebook and whatnot, but I would have gotten better quality because the stream output for Facebook is not as it's not as good as what I'm actually streaming off of, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I'm not missing an arm. It's just a green screen, right? See, my arm's here. I'm alive. It's like no, but yeah, so the fact that you have so much scope on these characters, it really made me think. I started to now look at the world a little differently now while I was playing these video games, trying to understand these stories, I was also going to school, and you know, I had a pretty good amount of friends at that time, you know, people from my neighborhood and the people from school. So you know, you had your A group, your B group, your C listers, you know, because you always kind of break down your friends and acquaintances into different categories, right? So that's pretty much what ended up happening. Yo, what's good, Michael? How you doing, brother? And yeah, so that's what ended up happening with that. So I started looking at the different connections I had with people, and I started being not necessarily concerned, but rather more open to the fact that, hey, you know what? It's not just about me. In the grander scheme of things, I am but a mere like dust particle in the fabric of reality. You know, I'm not anything special, but everybody else around me has a story. We all have unique, compelling stories because we're all unique and compelling people in our own way. You know, now granted, some of us more than others, but that's based off of the level that you're willing to take your own life in. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're doing good, Michael? That's what's up, man. I'm glad, man. I'm glad. Thanks for stopping on by, brother. Much appreciated. You know, and you know, I would look at like the people in my school, for example, because I spent a lot of time with those people, especially, you know, during that age. I was in school with the same people for a while. You know, now like I think we had like three or four grades all together, like in the same class. The majority of us, you know, like based off of the years, you'd switch one person off with the other, whatever. They're all interchangeable at the end of the day. And you know, I would talk to some of them like, hey, so like, what's going on in your life? And I suddenly gained an interest more on what was happening in different people's lives based off of me playing a video game, you know, and that's just because it taught me a grander sense of scale and a grander sense of reality. I don't necessarily have the proper words to articulate it with, but that's what it was. And that's something that I got out of a 16-bit video game that came out on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the SNES or SNES, however you cool kids like to call these retro consoles. But yeah, that's something that I definitely got out of that, and it was great, man. It was great. And that was just part 6. And you know, I actually went on and played part 4 later on, so I kind of played these a little backwards, and part 4 was also really good. You know, didn't look as good, and in the character sprites weren't as good either. This was the first one in the series to really step it up a notch, like really well with their character sprites and general environments. Like everything looked so good, you know, and it was a 16-bit console. Like how did you even do that? You know, and that just goes to show the love that people vomited onto these games. You know, they wanted it to be successful. Final Fantasy, right? You know, that was actually because originally Square thought that this was going to be like their last game, because they were, at the time, if memory serves me correctly, but please feel free to correct me, it was like a dying company, right? And because it was a dying company, they put all their eggs in one basket, and they try to create one game that would essentially try to pull them out of the depths of hell, which they had, you know, put themselves in. And it was named Final because they thought that it was going to be the last game in their series, but it ended up being the opposite. Now there's like 15, 16, 20 some odd something years later, more than 20 years actually, way more than 20 years. Now they're all over the place, and they just had a new game recently, and they're going to make more in the future because people like them. People just really, really dig these games. Now, granted, it's not the same anymore in terms of I'd like, let me not say that. That's bad, because I want to say quality, but these games look amazing now. Like, they look beautiful. They're beautifully voice acted. They have so much happening, but the charm of the former style of these games just kind of like lost its appeal for me a little bit. And whatever, that's a product of the times, because it's like, look what we're doing now. I'm on the internet talking to people on Facebook, and I have this green screen, and I have this little setup that I did here, and this is very like basic stuff. This is like simple shit by today's standards. But back in the day, you'd probably have a completely different system, and you wouldn't be able to live stream this stuff unless you were like on the radio, and that was just a radio. So I can't really blame them for being a product of their time. I don't want to sound like the grizzly veteran that's just like, oh, back in my day, video games were certainly unique, and now they've been tarnished beyond recognition. I don't want to be that guy, so I won't. And yeah, it really was a good thing. And if anybody is in chat, I mean, there's like one person watching or whatever, but if anybody wants to like add an experience in which they felt a particular game changed their life, or if they have any questions, they can ask me. You can always feel free. If y'all want to share this too, that'll be dope. Let's let the world see this, man. We gotta start raising each other up, man. Seriously, we gotta start raising each other up. Every time I'm on Facebook, this is a mini rant I have right now, okay? And this is not to anyone specific, but I'm gonna get into rant mode right now within this mini series podcasting that I'm doing, and that's people supporting each other. If you missed it, I'll say it again. People supporting each other. All right, because I know damn well that if somebody that I know is doing good and they're doing their shit, whether they're crocheting, whether they're doing music, whether they're doing video games, whether they're doing video, whether they're doing anything that's worth doing, I support it. I'll like their stuff. I'll share their stuff. I'll leave a comment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll subscribe if I have if their channel's like readily available for me to subscribe to. I always end up doing stuff like that. And it's crazy because I don't feel like I get this. You know what? I don't feel like I get the same type of love. And this isn't a woe is me moment. This is more of a call to action for all of us that call each other quote unquote friends. Like, we're all in each other's business all day when we're on the internet, and we look at what's happening, and sometimes we'll participate. But damn, it's like, if you're doing something awesome, share that fucking shit. Like, hit that damn like button, hit that share button so that the rest of your friends can see it. And then maybe one of them liked it, so they'll share it and their friends can see it. And now you have this domino effect, right? Where it all comes around. And now we have a better shot at succeeding because, we gave each other that chance. And I think us as a people need to start doing stuff like that. Support your people. Support your people. Because I remember one time I went, my boy Xavier, he was on here a little earlier. I don't know if he's on anymore, but I went to a show of his. He's a rapper, and he's really good, by the way. You should check him out. Me and his cousin, we went to go see him at a strip club. He was performing at a strip club, and it was like on their catwalk, and he did a really good job. But I think one of the more important lessons I got from there was that one of the dudes that was I don't know if he was hosting or he was just he was announcing the people that were coming on stage. And, he was like, oh, let's give it up for, Fulanita, whoever it was. And then almost nobody would clap. And then he was like, yo, really? He goes, yo, clap, man. He goes, you got to clap. You got to support, because when you want someone to acknowledge you, when you want somebody to see you succeed, you want everybody on your shit. But when they're doing something, you won't support them. So support your people. Support your people. And I was like, damn, yo, he's fucking right. I'm sorry. It's just a little mini rant. So support your people, support each other. And yeah, Emily says, my cousin used to bot me when I lost on Sonic. That's how video games changed me. I grew tough skin. You grew tougher skin. Oh, that's awesome. That's actually really cool. Yeah, you know, growing tougher skin is an important thing in games as well, because you end up, it's good, you know, because we can be jealous sometimes. Like if somebody's skill level's higher than ours, and you know, you become a player 2 ass person, you know, because that's what you would be at this point. You know, you got player 1, which is the main player, and then you got player 2, which is the Luigi basically. And it's good to lose sometimes. A little humility doesn't hurt anybody. You know, the worst thing you can do is have this enormous hubris where you think that you're unstoppable, and then you get stopped and your ego gets shattered and you get taken down, and now you're upset and you hate the world. Now for a kid, granted, you know, they'll probably just be mad for a little while and then go do something else. But it is important that these lessons are instilled upon us at a young age as well, because just like Emily said that she got bopped in the head for losing on Sonic, she said they changed her because she grew tougher skin. So, I mean, granted, maybe bopping you in the head wasn't the best thing to do, but it is what it is. It happened already. You know, you were a kid. You're not anymore. You said, oh, and me and my sisters used to play live Mortal Kombat. So we used to fuck each other up. Oh, damn, live Mortal Kombat. So y'all were like legit fighting each other. That's pretty dope, because I think everybody did that at a certain point in their lives. You know, you had like I remember when Street Fighter came out, everybody was doing the oh shit, I almost like fucked my shit up. They were doing the little Hadouken motion where they like put their hands out like that. And you know, like I remember pretending to do things like that too. So I think that's actually pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, and if you fought and you know you beat each other up a little bit, then yeah, tougher skin. You know, so you got more tough skin for losing in a game, and you got tough skin for emulating a game and beating each other up. But yeah, you know, again, man, video games do amazing things for amazing people. And if you're amazing and you continue to progress in life or whatever it is that you're doing, just do it to the best of your ability. Do it at full level, like maximum fucking effort. You know, don't give up on whatever it is that you're doing, because if you do, then you'll never know what's beyond that horizon. You know, you'll always think that, oh, you know, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I can't. Man, listen, pish posh apple motherfucking sauce. And I'm gonna curse because I could do that. All right, because it's my show that I created, so I can curse. If you don't like it, well, you know, click on another channel. Anyway, yeah, this is about positivity, man. Like I really want to know the impact that games had on people. And I know that I'm not like a big deal right now or anything like that. I'm pretty small fry. But, you know, these are things that you have to do. You have to put out content. You have to put out your effort. Your efforts have to start showing in things, you know? And I think the more you put effort into something that you're doing, it just pays off, man. Hard work pays off. You know, it has to hurt. It has to hurt sometimes. You have to feel the pain of staying up for like painstakingly amount of hours and then going to a soulless fucking job that you probably don't want to be at. Well, you have to have your manager yelling at you and telling you, hey, come to this room for this performance review. You get a performance review. You don't like your score. They think it's appropriate. They tell you that you got to do more for the company, you know, and meanwhile, you're just sitting there like, I don't even want to fucking be here. You know, you don't want to be here. The only reason you're here is because you need a paycheck to sustain yourself in this life that we've instilled these limitations upon ourselves, you know. And now granted, my job's not the best in the world. It's not the worst. It gets the bills paid, and I'm going to continue working there until I build myself up. You know, I got to pay my dues. I gotta show that I could hang. I did these little neat business cards. I'll show them to y'all here. All right, I put a photo of this up recently. Now I know that this says Neo's Corner Podcast, www.twitch.tv/NeoStarling, which if you haven't followed me, by the way, give your boy a follow. But I'm also on these social media platforms, and the main podcast or I mean, I can upload them anywhere. I can put them on YouTube, Facebook. I'm gonna try to get this SoundCloud thing going on soon. I mean, not SoundCloud, iTunes. I already have a SoundCloud. Just NeoStarling everywhere, man. NeoStarling everywhere. Also got the YouTube. Feel free to subscribe to that as well if you haven't already. I have some useful tutorial videos and I show you how to do some things, and I also talk about wrestling, occasional Dragon Ball, and just, you know, whatever the hell I want to talk about. And that's also where I upload my other podcasts, which if you've missed, you can check out there as well. The majority of the time I do my regular podcast, it will be on twitch.tv/NeoStarling. And, you know, just like you, I have my, where am I pointing at? I'm pointing this way. You see up there where it says NeoStarling, right? You see how that image keeps changing? Those are my social media platforms that I'm available on. All right. I'm totally going to fucking sell out, and I want people to start showing some love, you know, because just like video games changed my life in one way or another, they also taught me to fucking persevere and to fight for the things that you want, you know. And just like Daniel Bryan said recently before returning to the ring, if you don't fight for your dreams, then your dreams won't fight for you, which is the truth. You can't sit on your ass all day and expect to achieve greatness or think that it's just gonna like land upon you. You know, the only odds you have of something happening like that are if you hit the lottery, or if you got an inheritance an inheritance of some sort by your family. You know, these are the ways that people typically gain their wealth that didn't do anything for it, you know. And I think that if you want to do things the right way, if you want to do things in a legal way more than anything, you know, we fortunately live in a world where stuff like that is possible. You know, we live in a world where even if you're not good enough, you can get good, man. You can get fucking good. You can get on the internet. You can Google search, how do I blank? You know, like, how do I fucking jerk off better? How do I cut my own hair? You know, like, how do I do anything that's worth doing? You can find a video of somebody that's done it. And if you can't find a video of someone that's done it and you figured out how to do it, then you make the video. You make that mother effing video. Why? Because if it's not out there and you figured it out, you owe it. You owe it. I'm not even saying that, oh, it might be a good idea if I did this for the world. No, you owe it. You know why? Because anything that you know, any piece of information that you've ever learned in your entire life that you didn't learn on your own was because somebody put that information out there for you to learn it. So you can participate with the rest of the human race and put something up that's worth doing, that's worth emulating. Heck, maybe you're worth emulating and somebody might want to be like you. You know, maybe somebody else might want to be the next NeoStarling one day if I make it up there, or I might want to be the next whoever the hell, you know, I admire most in this world, you know. And I think that video games again, because I can kind of go off in these little rants or whatever, but video games were a part of that. You know, it gave me a grander scale. It gave me the ability to see beyond myself and to see other people and their struggles and what they're going through. And in turn, I was able to see what I have to do in order to not be like that and in order to help out in any way that I can. You know why? Because every time someone goes to a YouTube video of mine and they see a tutorial on how to do something that they didn't know how to do before, and they send me a thank you or, you know, whatever the case may be, I love it. I think it's fucking great. You know why? It's not just because I'm getting a shot of dopamine in my system and now suddenly I'm all happy-go-lucky. No. Well, that's part of the reason, because, you know, we're all narcissists at the end of the day. But I also think it's important to know that it's a feel-good feeling, you know, knowing that you helped change something, you know? Like, I helped somebody with their audio setup and they were like, holy shit. Like, I had no idea this is how you do it. And now that they know how to do it, they started doing the stuff that they wanted to do, you know. And video games, that's all because of video games, because I was able to see past myself. I was able to get out of my own way. And, you know, to those that talk to me often in real life, you know, they can say that I'm like that sometimes, and sometimes I'm not, you know. And that's true, because we're all different people at the end of the day. I put on a show for you people on the internet. I put on a personality. This is still me at the end of the day. I'm NeoStarling, but I'm also who I am. I am me. And when I do these things, heck, you know what? Maybe I'm a little quiet when I'm in person around certain people, but I'm also I'm also scared, at the same time, because I'm really an introvert that's typically forced to interact with people, and I'm forced to be an extrovert, but I'm doing this from the security of my own home, and this is why I like being able to do stuff like this. Emily says it's all about spreading knowledge, helping each other out. Yo, for real, facts, man, facts. That's some real shit, and these are just things that we got to start doing. Video games, they're fucking great, they're amazing. Don't demonize video games. I get it. People say, oh, because of video games, like my kids are lazy or whatever the fuck. No. If your kid is lazy, your kid is not lazy because they play a video game. Your kid is lazy because you're a bad parent. It's that simple. You know why? Because your children only do what you allow them to do. If you parent your child or your children correctly, then they'll be good. Keep their asses in school. Make sure they do their damn homework. If they have a problem with something, listen to them. Don't just stick a screen in front of their face and expect that to work itself out. No, some people don't learn that way. Some people need you to sit with them and explain things. Some people are visual learners like I am. I have a better time and a better understanding when I'm learning, when I'm physically doing something versus just reading it somewhere. Like that's how my mind works, which is why I've been able to do all these things, because I have all these different methods of finding information. The problem is there's no discipline. Yeah, definitely, that's the problem. It's like discipline. Don't blame the game. Heck, the game can help them. I learned how to read because of a video game, for crying out loud. I learned how to fucking read. My brother would try his hardest to help me learn how to read, and I wouldn't listen to him. He would always be like, okay, you need to pronounce these words this way, and I wasn't getting it. That's not how I learned. I wasn't wired that way. I learned how to read when my brother would no longer read this video game for me because, he had shit to do, and he got tired of reading for another person that wasn't helping themselves read. So he was like, if you want to beat this game, you're going to have to learn how to read, and you're going to have to do this on your own. And you know what? I wanted to beat the game. I was interested. It was fun. And I learned how to read through sheer will and determination, because that's what it took. It took a kick in my ass for me to be like, damn, there's not always going to be someone around to help me. I got to help myself. So help yourself and help everybody around you if you can. Because if you don't, then what are we doing? Anyway, I'm going to pretty much stop here. I've been talking shit for the last 32 minutes and 44 seconds. And, yeah, I didn't get much engagement here, but it's all good. Thanks, Emily, for engaging. Thanks, Michael, for saying what's up. Thanks for anybody that liked this and got on board for a little while and just watched. If you were lurking, it's all good. We're all lurkers. So yeah, I'm pretty much going to stop the video here, but feel free to follow me, twitch.tv/NeoStarling. That is where I stream video games and I do my podcast live. I occasionally do the podcast on Facebook as well. And if you're seeing this on Facebook, then you don't really need to worry because, you're good. But if you want to support me on any other social media platforms, feel free. I also have a Twitter, NeoStarling. I have an Instagram where I post up a bunch of photos of random stuff that I'm doing, whatever the case. And, the occasional inspirational quote or whatever, who, hi, hey. Twitter, I'm not as active in, but I'm going to start being more active on Twitter. I have my spurts where I'm active and more when I'm not. But yeah, those are the main platforms that I'm on. If you want to do a collab sometime, if you want to talk about video games, or you want to talk about wrestling, or you want to talk about anything, because as you can see, I'm very versatile and I can talk about anything. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's a flat earth theory. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to let all of you go. I wanted to get the second episode out tonight. I'm going to be doing a karaoke event in a few hours, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to live stream that, so check it out as well on twitch.tv/NeoStarling. And if you can't see that, I'll put it up here on these nifty little cards that I made. You see that right there? Wait. Hold on. Let's get the focus in. There we go. So, yeah, show support to me. Show support to your people. All right, in closing, I'm going to say one thing. In closing, support your people. And the reason I say that is because you have to believe in them. I know that there are times where we feel that, oh, this is blah blah, or this is Sam or Gary or whatever fucking generic name you want to throw up there. And I know that they're cool, but I just don't think that they can make it or whatever. They don't have it in them. You know what? No, they do have it in them. You don't believe that they have it in them, and because you don't believe that they have it in them, they can't count on your support. They can't count on your support. All right? Believe in your friends, believe in your family, because they believe in you, believe it or not. And if they don't believe in you, and they think that you ain't shit, and they think that you don't have anything worth giving to this world, then someone go fuck themselves and find yourself some new friends, because that's not somebody you want in your circle. Remember, you're the 5 most important people around you. That's who you are. And if you're around a bunch of people that don't believe in you, then they're not worth it. Plain and simple. Anyway, I've been NeoStarling. You guys are awesome, and don't ever let anyone tell you different. Signing off.